Hi everyone, welcome to what is now the 5th GCSE Biology online lesson. So our learning question today is, what is osmosis? So I'd like you to make sure that you have a piece of paper or a notebook with you and a pen or a pencil. All right, so if you don't have those now, can you go and grab them? Just pause the video and go and grab those so that you have them ready. Well done. So if you write the learning question, what is osmosis? The first thing that we are going to do though is we're just going to take a look back at last lesson. So at the end of last lesson, I showed you a 6-mark question about diffusion. Okay, so here it was. Describe the factors that could affect the rate of diffusion. All right, so remember, diffusion is the movement of particles from a high concentration to a low concentration. And there are 3 main factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. Now, hopefully you would have had a go at writing this and submitting it on Shobi. And if you did that, then you will have got some feedback from a teacher who would have marked it. But if you didn't, then what you can do is you can pause the video now, go and find your answer if you've written it on a piece of paper, or you can have a go at answering it now. All right, so just pause the video and do one of those things, please. Excellent. So we're just going to go through what would get you the 6 marks for the answer to this question. So firstly, concentration gradient affects the rate of diffusion. That's how much difference there is between the 2 concentrations. So how much higher the high concentration is than the low concentration. So the concentration gradient affects the rate of diffusion. The greater the difference in concentration, the quicker the rate of diffusion. The second factor is temperature. So temperature also affects rate of diffusion. The higher the temperature, the more kinetic energies particles will have, and so they will move faster because they've got more kinetic energies, and they'll move more quickly. So diffusion is going to happen at a greater rate. The third factor that affects the rate of diffusion is the surface area. So the surface area of the cell membrane, or just the surface area of the surface where diffusion is happening across. So the greater the surface area, the faster the rate of diffusion. Okay, so if you didn't have feedback from a teacher, then you can mark your answer now. You can pause the video and mark your answer now. If you did, and if there's any way that you can improve your answer, you can just maybe write a few notes for yourself now. Excellent, well done. Okay, so this lesson we are looking at osmosis. So I found a definition for osmosis for you here. So osmosis is a type of diffusion that involves the random movement of water molecules. So one way that osmosis is different from diffusion is it's involving just water molecules. So it's only the water molecules that are moving in osmosis. And it's the movement of water across a partially permeable membrane. And we're going to have a look at what that means in a moment, because that's quite a confusing term, partially permeable membrane. So don't worry too much about that at the moment. From a high water concentration to an area of low water concentration. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video now and just write out that definition for osmosis, because A, it will help you to kind of think about what osmosis is, and B, it would be really good to have it there for your notes. Okay, so just pause the video now and write that out for me, that definition that's in the red box. Fantastic, well done. So, having a look then at where osmosis would occur. So over on the left-hand side here, I've got a solution of water, which is, so the water molecules are represented by these blue molecules, and squash, so orange squash. And they are represented by these larger orange molecules. Now, what would happen during osmosis is water would move from where there is a high concentration of water, which is over here on the right-hand side, to where there is a lower concentration of water, which would be over here on the left-hand side. So I've put this arrow here to represent the movement of water molecules there. So during osmosis here, Water would move from where there was this high concentration of water molecules across to where there is a lower concentration. So this also happens osmosis happens inside cells. So you've got the cell membrane separating the outside of the cell and the inside of the cell. So the outside and the inside are separated by this cell membrane. Now that cell membrane has got tiny holes in it, okay? And that allows small molecules like water molecules to pass through it, but not larger molecules. We call that partially permeable. So partially permeable means small holes, enough to fit small molecules like water through, but not larger molecules. Okay, so that is why in this demonstration where I used water and squash, you can see here, these holes are small enough for the water to pass through, but they wouldn't be big enough for these large squash molecules to pass through. So the water can pass through those small holes and move via osmosis to this area where there is a lower concentration of water. Okay, so I would like you please to have a go at answering these 3 questions. So write these 3 questions out on your piece of paper or in your notebook, and just take a minute to have a go, a couple of minutes for each of them to have a go at answering them. So pause the video now and just give it your best shot answering these 3 questions, please. Fantastic, well done. So what is osmosis? It's the movement of water from a high concentration of water to a low concentration of water through a partially permeable membrane. Now in a GCSE question, that would usually be worth 2 marks. So your first mark would be about movement of water from high to low water concentration, and your second mark would be the bit about saying through a partially permeable membrane. What is a partially permeable membrane? A membrane that has small holes in it that only let small water molecules through. It does not let large solute molecules like those big squash molecules through. And what is the partially permeable membrane? In a cell, it's the cell membrane. Fantastic. So the next thing that I would like you to do, please, I'll move me up there, is have a look at these 6 examples of where osmosis would occur. And I would like you to draw an arrow for each one. So just write out A, B, C, D, E, F, and then draw your direction arrow next to it to show or to illustrate the direction that osmosis would occur. So the direction that the water molecules would occur. So pause the video now and have a go at that. Well done. So in the first one, there are more water molecules in this right-hand side than there are the solute molecules. So there is a higher water concentration this side. So water molecules would move by osmosis over to this side. Okay, so that's A. In B, there's a higher concentration of water molecules over here on this left-hand side than there is on this right-hand side. So water would move in this direction. And in C, a higher concentration of water molecules on this left-hand side than on the right-hand side. So water would move across to the right-hand side. And in D, higher concentration of water molecules over here than there is over here. So they would move across like that. And E, there's definitely a much higher concentration of water molecules on this right-hand side. So they would move across to here where there's a much lower concentration. And for F, higher concentration over here on the right-hand side. So the water molecule would move across to the left-hand side here. Some of them, it's showing here, would also move across this way because it's a very similar concentration. And the stretch question was explain in which example osmosis would occur most rapidly. So it would occur most rapidly in E. So it would occur at a greater rate for E, because there's that higher difference, that higher concentration gradient between the two solutions. Okay, well done if you got that right. If you need to correct a few, then do so. It also might be worth, if you want to, you could pause the video and draw out some of the diagrams. Well done. Okay, so what I would like you to do now, please, is look at these three words that we have been looking at over the last couple of lessons, and try and match the word to its definition. So it would be really helpful if you could write these keywords out and write out their correct definition. So if you can pause the video and have a go at doing that now. Fantastic, well done. So osmosis is the movement of water molecules from an area of their high concentration to an area of their low concentration. Diffusion, the movement of particles from an area of high concentration to low concentration. And partially permeable is a membrane that allows some small substances like water to pass through, but other larger ones like the solute molecules can't. Fab, well done. Okay, this is a bit of a more tricky exam question that we're going to have a look at now. So, Liz uses an experiment to show the effect of different solutions on potato tissue. She cuts up pieces of potato and she measures their length and puts them into different beakers. After an hour, Liz measures the length of the potato pieces again. So she's expecting osmosis to occur, which is going to change the size of these pieces of potato. So here's her table that she has written. So she's got 3 beakers. She puts pieces of potato in these 3 beakers. One of the beakers has dilute sugar solution. That means a very weak sugar solution. So a few sugar particles, but not that many. She also has a highly concentrated sugar solution, so lots and lots of sugar particles inside that solution. And she also has pure water. Now, what would you expect to see happen to the length of the potato pieces? So if you could pause the video now and have a guess for each of those beakers. So dilute sugar, highly concentrated sugar and pure water. What would she see happen to those pieces of potato, to the length of them? Fab. So in the highly concentrated sugar solution, she would expect, so if you imagine you have a piece of potato, water is going to move out by osmosis because it will move from inside the potato, where there is a very high concentration of water, to the outside, to that highly concentrated sugar solution where there's a much lower concentration of water. So you would expect to see that piece of potato being much shorter. In the pure water, the opposite would happen. So you have your piece of potato. You would expect to see water moving into the potato by osmosis because there would be a higher concentration of water molecules in that pure water than there are inside the potato. So water would move into the potato would grow longer. And in the dilute sugar solution, what you'd expect is a very similar concentration of water molecules inside the potato as outside. So you'd expect to see very little difference or no change to the length at all. Okay. If you're unsure of this question, then pause the video and maybe rewind to hear me explain it again, or you can look up osmosis on BBC Bitesize. Okay, well done for sitting through the lesson. What we've got now is a 6-mark question that you can answer on Shobi. All right, so if you submit your answer on Shobi, then myself or one of the other science teachers will be able to mark it for you and give you some feedback. So the question for this week is describe the similarities and the differences between the processes of diffusion and osmosis. So if you think that you can have a bash at this on your own without any clues, then stop the video now and have a go independently. All right, I'm going to talk you through, though, if you need to, some clues. All right, so thinking about diffusion and osmosis, some of the similarities. So they both happen across a concentration gradient. They are both a passive process, so they don't require any energy. Differences are that diffusion is the movement of particles, whereas osmosis is the movement of water molecules. Think as well, that's the other difference of the osmosis needs that semi-permeable membrane. Okay, so there's a few clues to get you started on describing the similarities and the differences between the processes of diffusion and osmosis. Okay, so there's your class code there for Shobi to write your answer, to submit your answer to. Well done for listening to this lesson. Have a lovely week, and I will speak soon.